we're going to talk about the Supernote. Rod and I are kind of on different ends about when this thing might be coming out.
There are a few people in this industry who I think know things. Okay, for everybody in the chat, there are a few people I think know things. Ed is one of those people. I think know things. I don't know why. I feel like the way he talks sometimes.
I kind of, I've been with them 3.5 years. I've had my A5X. It was the first e-ink device I ever bought other than a reader, and I have Kobo for that. And I noticed a pattern. I think they would be altering the message if they thought it was going to be next year.
Okay.
So with that chasing the carrot letter, which was written, I think, not with the best analogy, but as you dig
Yeah, the
through
vibe
it,
was all off.
yeah. But I think as you dig through it, what comes out there is that they're really pushing hard to get this done. And I know from dealing with them that they're like a small and mighty team. So I
Mhm.
would be surprised, and I'm kind of going on faith a little bit to say I think they're going to hit it. So that's where my vibe comes from. And that they haven't come out now after because they mentioned they were going to try and ramp up near the end of October. My guess would be no pre-orders, and sometime this month they drop that thing. That would be my guess based on what they've said. And there's been some chatter on Reddit that some of these may be out in test units. And if they are, then that gives me even more hope because you have the FCC filing, which I know can be up to 18 months. You also
Mhm.
have a Chinese filing that's very similar, getting product approval that I saw somewhere else on the Reddit stream.
Mhm.
And you have the potential of test units. All of that combined makes me think they're going to release.
It the one thing you said that makes me think they might, and what changes me from being 100% that they won't to like 60/40 is the fact that there are maybe test units in the wild. That doesn't mean much because you don't even have to have FCC certification to have test units in the wild. You could just kind of have them, kind of anticipating certification, and when it hits, you already got devices out there. Um, but the fact that they would put them out there says that they, I don't know, that gives me pause. That gives me pause. And if you're right about the end of October being the ramp up time, that would give them time to be ready for Black Friday sales. Um, it's right before Christmas. People are buying Christmas presents. So, and to me, if they're going to make a push, it's got to be then.
I agree with you. I think that they want to hit the holiday season. Now, interestingly though, Supernote doesn't do Black Friday sales. They don't do
Okay,
any
well then
sales.
let's. All right, then you know what? Okay, I go back to being 100%.
But they're very open about that. They do their discounts and they don't
Yeah. No,
do
I get it.
sales.
And they wouldn't even have to do a Black Friday sale, in my opinion. Yeah, I don't think they have that kind of device that would need that kind of thing. They don't need that to sell devices.
But I do. I mean, to your point, I think that there's a reason to be skeptical. I'm not
Hmm.
100% sure because you never know what could happen. I mean, I was in retail for almost 20 years, and I know that there's always something that can happen.
Oh yeah.
Logistically, warehousing, stock levels, production, manufacturing. You never know for sure. I
Hmm.
would say that I'm very much though. I think I'm 75, 80% sure they're going to hit this year.
Well, like
So
I say all the time, I would love to be wrong because I want an A5X too, bad,
let me
like right
tell
now.
you, you would love to be wrong because I still love this thing. Still love it.
Dude, I almost went and bought an A5X just because I got tired of waiting. I almost went to eBay and just bought one that someone was selling because the Mobius display. I'm
It's
tired
a
of not
different
having one.
feel. Well, it's a different feel, and it also has this whole it's not the perfect size. I actually agree with Voya that I think if I was going to have 13.3 inches my unicorn. So I think once they
Really?
hit the A4, yeah, because I'm in academics now. Had I been
Hmm.
still in retail or in like when I was in the library environment, this
Hmm.
was perfect. But to mark up a PDF and annotate it and put stuff in the margins and all of that, this is doable on here. And I do. I use it all the time for that. But the
Hmm.
13.3 would be perfect because it's just like writing
I hear
on
a
the
lot of
paper.
people who work in academia say that. I don't have the pleasure of working in academia right now, so I don't know. I don't see that benefit. But I would love a 13.3 inch just because it's more space. Yeah, I'll take more space any day.
And you don't have to resize the PDFs. That's kind of probably my biggest complaint. Quite frankly, I don't think they were prepared for the success of the A6X2.
How do you think that affected the A5X2 supply?
Well, I think a couple of things because we talked about on the E team a little bit the idea that they pivoted from the A5 Slim now, maybe not happening, and
Mm,
it's almost like they went back to the design drawing board a little bit. There was a thing in Reddit the other day about would you have bought the A uh, the A5X2 if it was just an upscaled A6X2? And
I thought that.
my answer would be yes,
I
but
would too.
I think this current design is even better in some ways. It has those rubber feet
Okay.
on the bottom. It has the new pogo pin
Yes.
pieces. It has the half folio, which could be good or bad, depending on
Hmm.
how you do it. They learned not to do a crystal. I know Jeffrey Moss is going to be very mad at me, but I don't think they'll do a crystal design. If they do, I think it'll be an optional thing you can buy. But I think they learned to go with one body, one manufacturing line, and now they may be able to, kind of really get into their groove because you saw people waiting on that crystal all the time. As much as I found the A6, and I know you use the A6X2 a lot. I mean, you talk about
Hmm.
constantly using it as your notepad.
Yes.
And I think I would too if I didn't have the A5X. But since I
Hmm.
have the A5X and it allows me to view those bigger uh, files
Oh.
on it, I
Hmm.
gave my A6X2 to Trey, my son, who's an engineer,
Well,
because
see,
he'll use it every day.
but and I can understand that because you still have a Supernote.
Yeah.
But to get rid of both and not and be living a super noteless life, what is that like? What do you do?
Yeah, and I agree. I think that you and I talked offline about this, and I'd be curious what everybody says.
His thing was not really his thing was a super note thing then. I thought he was just like, I got tired of waiting for the A5X2, so I'm just going with a whole different platform. He was just like, all right, I tried Supernote. It wasn't my thing. I'm going with something else. Okay, I get that.
Which makes perfect sense. I mean, it's not for everybody. I
Hmm.
mean, like for me,
No.
the remarkable isn't for me. It's
Mm.
too stripped down, and that's just because
Yeah.
it doesn't allow me to do what I need to do. And books is just overkill for what I need.
Could you imagine if Supernote made a small? Come on. It
I
wouldn't.
mean,
It wouldn't even have to have a calendar or anything like that. Just a notepad. Just a notepad.
so I
I go
but
back to retail.
dude, I'm never going back. No, 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 no. I like having holidays off. Finally.
Nah, I feel you. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So, but no, I mean seriously, that to me that was like because you made me think of that when you were talking about all the things the Palma might be able to do, especially with the Palma 2.
Hmm.
And I thought it just hit me. I thought, man, any e-ink phone that's a quality e-ink phone that has Android, pair that with the Supernote app, and now you're good.
Yeah,
Because
but
you
that'd
can
be a
use that.
licensing nightmare for Ratta.
Not really,
unless they
because
made it
they
themselves.
well, I mean, Kindle, yeah, or it would be you could only view and upload, so you couldn't edit.
Hmm.
So it would be the same functionality I have on my Galaxy now. The only difference is you would be viewing it on E. That was kind of my point, was
Oh,
you would
I
be
see what you're
viewing
saying.
it
Okay,
on a like device, so you're seeing it
gotcha,
as it was rendered. Uh,
gotcha.
yeah, so no, it would still be the Android app.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I see what you're saying. Yeah, it would be if they tried to. It's like Kindle. Part of me sees that little notebook icon in the Kindle app on the A6X2, and I'm like, why? They let you do everything else in the Kindle app on the app. Why don't they just let you write on it? Come on. Let
Right,
me have the
right.
Kindle write the Kindle Scribe like interface to write on in my Supernote to mark up my Kindle books.
Okay, no doubt. I want to get that new Kindle Scribe. I want to get that new Kindle Scribe. I don't know
See,
why. I, f- I feel
I
like I'd be
don't
getting
even,
into a ball of wax, but
I I love the look of Kindles, but quite frankly, I went into the Kobo ecosystem. My wife bought me a Kobo, had not heard of the company at all, and I have a Kobo Aura.
is
I've
that the
had it
name of the
now for
device?
5, 6 years. Yeah, 5 or 6
Okay.
years, and it's waterproof, and it still starts right up. It keeps long battery life. It's pretty
How's the
crisp. I did a
e-ink?
video with it next to the A6X2, and it holds its own. And it's got the
Okay.
adaptive brightness, and for a reader, it's top notch. I think
I hear that
Kobo
Kobo
makes
Color
some
was
really
pretty
good
good.
readers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you know me though. I'm not a color device guy. Not yet. I just
It's a ball of wax. It's almost not even worth it. I'm not even going. I'm telling you, you're not missing much.
well,
You're
I
missing
just
debates about what color's the best when they
it's
all look pretty
entertaining to
bad.
watch.
So,
It's
hmm,
entertaining to watch, and I really appreciated Voya's in-depth video on the Remarkable Paper Pro
uh,
after he came down from the visit to headquarters. Because when he
it
came
was
back and
good.
he admitted, he was like all like, this is why. But then he actually went through the thing and he did one of his traditional deep dives, and I think was fair. I think, he's like,
Hmm.
this thing flickers a lot. And if you don't have a use
Yeah,
case for color,
I think he came down a lot, and I appreciated that. I'm wondering what the supply chain is like for the A6X2 right now. I'm about to go to the Supernote site and see what the if you can just buy one right now.
I've been noticing on Reddit that people are getting them sometimes in less than a week, like 3 to 6
Oh, so
days.
the supply is pretty good then.
I
Okay.
think so, but I don't know if that's crystal or if that's regular. That was what really hurt them the first time, was having the crystal version, because they were having a lot of
Hmm.
trouble sourcing those materials. Hey, I've been called a fanboy on the A5X Christina Ray a lot, so don't feel bad. You're in good company. You're in good
By this
company.
guy.
so, so don't feel bad. That's normal. Uh, yeah, the Go 10.3, there it is. Won you over. Whoa. You don't think you're going to get the A5X2? Wow. That's a big
That's saying
statement.
something.
Excuse me. That's a big statement. See, I don't know. I've thought about the 10.3. I have. If there's any Boox device that gets me thinking, other than, and this is a question that was offline before we got online, so I'm going to throw it out to you. Max 10.3 or Supernote A5X2 to you, Rod?
For me?
Yeah,
Oh, I would take the. Oh, that's a good one. I still take the Super Note.
I would too.
I take
It's the
Super Note.
toolkit for me.
That's what
It's
it
the tool
is.
set.
It's like it doesn't even. It's like the screen doesn't matter. The frame don't matter. That software, they did a good job.
Lad in the
BSR.
house.
What's going on, Vlad?
Yeah, I think it's
BSR
BSR.
is why. Yep.
I think it's 100% BSR. Plus, I don't. Here's where I may get a little bit into your territory, Rod.
Mm,
There's no news on when that thing's coming out. None.
mm-mm.
We have a prototype mock-up of what that thing might look like, and I'm a little concerned that they're trying to get ahead of Supernote because I think next year the A4 X2 is going to hit, and
Oh,
I think they're trying to say, oh look, we already beat them on a new 10.3. Oh look, now we have this other thing coming out.
mhm.
That's just me. Now maybe I'm seeing a conspiracy where there isn't one, but
That's exactly what they're doing. That's why there's no pre-order, but the design language is Go. On eh, it, that Vlad, the design
Vlad, you're
language
just
says
stating the
Go.
obvious.
Yeah, they're
They're confusing
with
things.
they are like the design language says Go, and I'm telling you, Vlad, the only reason they didn't call it the Go, they wanted to call it the Go.
They did.
That you know what? Before they changed the firmware, they probably had already called it the Go 13.3. But then when they were like, okay, we're going to make this new firmware, so we're going to put it on that device, but now we got to give that device BSR just to run the widgets. So no, we got to call it the Note.
I think that's my biggest problem with books. And the only reason I think that I haven't bought a Boox device to at least try one out is because they don't know who they're going to be when they grow up yet. Maybe that's just me. They're throwing so many things at the market, and I'm not. Don't get me wrong. I am not disparaging their devices at all. I've seen Kit's reviews. I've seen your reviews. I've seen Vlad's reviews. Jeff's review. Everybody. Boy, is they're a good quality product. But even in Voya's review of the what was it the Go 7, he's like,
Mm-hmm.
dude, this is a Poke 6 or a Poke 7, whatever number it was in the Poke line. He's like, this is not what you're telling me it is. It's another device that you've just refreshed,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a carousel.
It is, and I think Jeff hit the nail on the head when he said that he didn't anticipate the market fragmenting the way that it is right now. Just one device becoming two devices, becoming four devices, you know, trying to hone in on a even smaller market of the e-ink market. He said he didn't see it coming, even though that's what's happening. I didn't see it coming, but I think that's the way things are going, and I think that's just like healthy for the e-ink market overall too. Just because if you think about it, without this segmentation, we would have never gotten the Palma, and the Palma is one of the most mainstream e-ink devices out there. Like it really put e-ink in the faces of a lot of people who would have never even known it was even a thing.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I think I mentioned on our E-Team stream that I think all of these should be able to exist. I'm not sitting here saying, oh, no, they shouldn't
Hmm.
do it.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, that it's almost like the Jurassic Park analogy of just because you can do it, does that mean you
Right.
should? And
Yeah. Yeah.
they're saturating and competing against themselves in some ways, and I think
That's
that's the
a good
issue.
point.
If you were considering buying the A5X2, would you buy it as soon as release or would you wait? I'd buy it straight out. If you're, it depends where you are on the path, and tell me if you agree, Rod. To me,
Hmm.
if you have made the decision to go with a Supernote, I'd buy it the minute it hits. If you're still on the fence and you're not sure, if you're still reviewing other devices and you're not sure whether it's the right device for you, I'd wait for the reviews. But it's going to
Hmm.
already out of the box do everything that the A6X2 and the A5X do. So if you look at those product packages and tools and you think that's the right set for me, buy it out of the box, buy it immediately and get your name on the list. That's my take.
I agree. I am the same way. Like as soon as they release this, my fingers on the button.
Well, and they
No,
stand
go ahead.
behind their product. Very
Yeah.
rarely do you hear of like a even on Reddit. Occasionally, you'll see, oh well, this happened to me, and it was awful. And then Mulan in the chat pops in and is like, send us a private message and we'll take care of it. And
Hmm.
then it's taken care of. They're really responsive.
That's good.
So you're buying that on top of the idea of whether it's the right device for you or not.
And it's just like you're buying the tools, right? But when you buy Supernote, you're buying an experience as well. Like it's hard to really describe.
Yeah, it's
They do
it.
a good job.
You and I both. I heard you mention it on the live stream, and I went into Reddit and actually participated a little in this.
Oh boy.
Supernote's gotten pretty aggressive in clamping down on their moderation in the
Oh my
community.
goodness.
And I've said this to him before. I've said it vocally. I mean, I've been on that community now for over 3 years. Let me preface this by saying, let me pull this chat down. It's their thread. They're allowed to do whatever they want. So the only thing we can do is offer advice on what we think they should do. A lot of people are like,
Hmm.
oh, well, you're not allowed. No, they are. Let's be fair. They set the rules. The rules say you're not supposed
Yeah.
to mention competitor products and all this other stuff. And if you violate the rules, they can kick you.
Mhm.
Okay. I don't agree with it. I don't have to
Which does
agree with it.
anybody else do that?
It's funny because I got
Like,
into like a back and forth over the e ink subreddit today
hmm.
uh, because I was deleted several times in there before I was ever monetized or anything. But if I put a video out and it was on the Supernote, they said that I was sponsored. And I'm like, not sponsored. I'm just a guy making. And so
Oh,
their
okay, I see.
moderation team was pretty aggressive.
Hmm.
But again, and they don't censor Remarkable the same way they do Book. I'll be perfectly honest that Supernote does not. They even put out that letter congratulating the Remarkable Paper Pro. And
Hmm.
I think it may be some internal national competition because Boox is a Chinese company, Supernote's a Chinese company.
Oh, absolutely.
But so I, I think a lot of people are making way too much out of it. But at the same time, going in what you're going to get. And
Hmm.
they do want to keep it from being just a gripe fest or this product is so much better than your product and that kind of stuff. I understand it, but they're getting a little
Yeah.
too front forward, in my opinion.
Well, especially when it's happening as often. I could see doing it when something especially egregious happens. Um, but every day now, it's somebody's getting banned. Not just like taking a message taken down, but like users being like banned from the subreddit.
The next topic we have is organization workflows. And this is where I want to
Mm.
I want to dig into your head because you use all of these devices. And I don't. I use my Supernote and I have a very specific workflow. I even put a video out on it today,
Hmm.
saying that this is the way I do stuff. And a lot of people are probably going, how does he get anything done? Well, I get a lot done, but I do it a very
Method.
specific way. um, but I'm curious, what have you found? Like, because one day Kit and I are going to have a live stream because he always calls Boox devices productivity tools and then calls Supernote and Remarkable for creatives. And I've been
Mm.
in operations for 30 years. I'm very much not a creative when it comes to that part. I'm not a sketcher. I'm not that kind of stuff. To me, the Supernote is a productivity powerhouse the way I use it
Hmm.
because of me. I'm curious what you think. Do you think that like he's right on that? Or do you think if
I've never heard that before. That's interesting though. I'm thinking about it now and I'm like, man, I would have to agree with that. Because and the only reason I say that is because that's currently how I'm using the devices. So my Supernote gets every thought. If I think it, it's in the Supernote. But when I go to refine those thoughts and work with them in a more professional manner, I guess, I don't know. I go to rewrite it on the books because I just know that I can get it right into my drive from there. Like there's it's a frictionless thing. So I might have to agree with that, Ed. Yeah.
No,
I might have to
and
agree.
that's why I want to have this talk with him, because I want to see, because for me, and I've got some different things I put out on this, that like I draft everything in the A5X2, like my blog articles, my um, I don't script a lot, but like notes of what and
Hmm.
topics I'm going to cover, and then I export that with the reflow in Word and just sync it and open it. So basically, any note file, if you use the automatic handwriting recognition in the background, can
Hmm.
be exported as a reflowed Word document. So basically, what that does is instead of being on every line as it's written, it turns it into a big block.
Okay.
And then if you leave a line space, it'll actually even do your paragraphs somewhat. I did that whole process the other day for a blog article, and the export cleanup to post was about 20 minutes after post, after I'd written it all out, 8 or 9 pages
Hmm.
on the A5X. For me, that works really well because the Supernote is the only thing that allows you to export natively to Word. Now, you can use the
Right.
Word app on a Boox platform,
Hmm.
but you can't actually export a note file directly to Word that I know of.
Right.
That maybe I'm
No.
wrong. I don't, and if I am,
Not
tell
that
me.
I know of either.
And what's cool is once you edit it, especially if you use the app, like the Supernote app, and just save it right there where it is, now I can look at it exactly how I edited it back on my device, on my Supernote, and the images are selectable. You can't do anything with them yet. So they haven't
Mm.
got the software all the way in, but they come up with a bounding box. So I think eventually
Is
you're going to be able to resize on the Supernote a native Word document.
That's cool.
So,
That is cool.
but I mean, again, that's my use. And then of course I use the handwriting recognition to go into Obsidian, and it pulls in the markdown files and the images along with it. So for me, it is a productivity tool. I 100% get what you're talking about and what Kit's talking
Hmm.
about. Where is the productivity? Like, can someone, can the remarkable be somebody's productivity driver?
Oh yeah.
I'm just trying to think through.
It's all about how you're using it. So to your point, if you wanted to do everything on the Supernote, you could. They have enough tools for me to get done for me to do whatever I need to do on there solely. But just knowing that I have um, a device with apps on it that has Drive, I just choose to go that route. So I guess it's all about how you use it, right? If you're using it as a productivity tool, it's a productivity tool, in my opinion. Um, but I think the thing with me and Kit agree is because we resigned to use these other devices, so we probably see it the same way because of that. We can segment our tasks. If I don't know if that makes sense, but whereas if I just had a super note, I'd make it work and get everything done. So,
And don't get me wrong, I agree with you and Kit both on that. I mean, I don't edit my final blog post by hooking a Bluetooth keyboard and trying to edit it in the Supernote. Never going to do
mhm.
that. I mean, unless their
Yeah.
software does something crazy. I just don't see that as the best way to do it because Word
And
is
when
so
we get
much
into
faster.
AI, then this whole thing we're talking about right now is going to come back into play.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I think so. I think that's one of the big movers in the space. And I think when you're talking about this productivity piece, it's hard because I do like my apps. I work in Google. Supernote does sync with it. I think actually it does a decent job, especially little trick. I've mentioned it before, but if you install the Supernote app, whether you use it or not on your
Hmm.
computer, you can still just sync to Google Drive or to OneDrive. And then when you go to open those note files, they'll open in the Supernote app and you can see them
From wherever
natively
you open them at.
from wherever you open them at.
Oh
It
wow.
enables that extension just like Word or anything
Hmm.
else would. It enables that extension to be readable.
I like
And
that. That's a good worker. That's a good like nice little hack.
let me ask you this, since you do use those platforms, what would you say the out of all the devices you have right now that make you the most productive when working with apps? So that's probably going to eliminate the Supernode and the Remarkable to a point. But
Hmm.
the Google based products you have, what do you think is like what's your go-to device?
I reach straight for the Go 10.3, and because I can just pull stuff straight down from there. I can save stuff straight from there. Um, so yeah, if I'm working with Google apps, I'm using the Go 10.3. It's good, man.
Okay.
It's just to me the Go 10.3 is the best example of what e-ink is right now, if that makes sense. Because
It's a big
I
statement.
mean, not it
It
is,
is.
but I've thought about it. It to me it is the best example of what e-ink is. Now, is a software now the software ain't the best example of what software can be. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying e-ink as a technology. The Go 10.3 is the best example of that right now.
No, and I've heard you make that distinction before, and I 100% agree with you. I think software is a big consideration for anybody who's wanting to enter into this space. But I agree. I mean, that's why I didn't go with the Books interface. It was just too complicated for
Hmm.
me. And the thing is, I teach technologies for a living, so it's not like I'm scared of technology or that I'm scared of the learning curve. It's not that. It's just for what I want these devices to do, I want them to be as little friction as possible between me and getting the job done. And
And that's what the Supernote
that's,
is.
yeah.
Hmm.
I mean, I would argue the remarkable is the absolute least friction. But again,
Well, it's
depends what you're trying to
too much.
accomplish.
If you like the Go 10.3, yeah, the Note Air 3C is probably gonna be a little too dim for you. But but I'm glad to see you enjoying that the Note Air or not the Note Air, but the Go 10.3 combination with the Super Note. Because that is to me the dream combo.
Until the A5X2 comes out. Just
Right, right. For
kidding.
real. Yeah. Then it's
Yeah.
A5X2 land.
To me, I mean, I think once I get to the A5X2 and if I get the A4X2, I'm done. You could just keep selling me those two form factors with that software
Hmm.
package. And I
Hmm.
think that one thing, my mind works really weird. And so I like the fact that Supernote is almost like, remember the choose your own adventure books where you're like, you
Hmm.
get to kind of chart your own path. That's how I work. If I'm taking notes, I'm like writing to dos in my notes as I'm going. And then I can
Yep.
now transfer those over to a to do app that's built into the Supernote. And then I can tick those off and go back and find where I had it in the notebook it was in.
Right. Dude,
That's just
it's
genius.
so nice. It is. They have thought through so many scenarios that people go through.
They've really thought through what they want the device to do.
Yes.
It's not so much about the device can do anything. I've heard that argument made about books a lot, which I respect the argument that sometimes it's better to have more options. And you've made this argument, I think, Rod, too, that sometimes it's better to have more options and then you decide what you want to be able to use.
Hmm.
Um, and Remarkable says, no, you get these options and that's it. Supernote's kind of that middle ground of we're going to give you what we believe are the best options for what you're trying to do with this device. And then we're going to listen to you and we're going to build more things later if we need them.
Hmm.
And that's kind of a unique way of looking at the market for me because there are things I use now that I didn't need when I bought the device, but now I use them all the
And
time.
and that's the beauty of it. So it's a fine line. Like I was thinking about this the other day, and how Remarkable does their software, because when you buy a Remarkable device, you know what you're getting. Like whether it's the Remarkable Paper Pro, the Remarkable 2, and if they release what I know they're going to, they're coming out with a Remarkable paper, just paper. It's coming. It's going to be like, I guarantee it's going to be the successor to the Remarkable 2. Mark my words, you heard it here first. But back to the point. So,
I agree
um,
with you, by the way.
yeah, man. Yeah, yeah. So I think that when they make their software, they're not trying to like let feature creep be a thing. They're so intentional with every feature they add, which is probably two a year. Let's be real. So they probably add like two features a year, and they're good, decent features. Now, could they do more? Yeah. Um, but they're thinking about it like that. And that's how I think Supernote thinks about their operating system as well. Because for all the updates they do, I never feel like feature creep is a thing to where it's becoming too convoluted. You know what I mean? And I think that's a testament to their software design. Because I say this all the time about the Boox products, is that they add features, but they don't give any thought to how people are going to use those features, like or where we should put these features to make them easy to find. It just they never give thought to that. But Supernote, like they give thought to that, and I love that. He's yet to bite the bullet on the ecosystem. I think I'm making it much more difficult on myself, and just need to take a leap of faith on one.
I think that yes, you are making it more difficult on yourself. And I do think that you should take a leap on one. I would not tell you which one. I think that
Oh, see,
is
that's what I was.
yeah, I wouldn't because everybody's got a different kind of case for what they're
Hmm.
doing. For me, Remarkable wasn't going to work. For me, Books was too out there, had too many things. That's why I picked Supernote. Supernote doesn't work for everybody. If your work requires you to have a front light, sorry, that isn't going to happen on a Supernote device. If your work requires you to engage heavily in tablet form with Office apps or the Google ecosystem, and you really need something like an iPad to do that, e ink probably isn't the right thing for you. But if you need something that you can take notes on and that you can do certain application types on, you could go with either Books or Supernote and be okay, but knowing that none of those are going to be optimized for e ink, or very few. There are some, but very few. It just all depends on use and how you're going to do it. This is my paper replacement, and it happens to have a bunch of other stuff I use as convenience, the calendar integrations and the to do app features and the links and all of that. But it was primarily so I don't have to have all my notes and notebooks sitting all over the place anymore.
Yeah, and that's these devices. I mean, you know what's so funny? In my case, I went from having notebooks and paper around everywhere So now I got tablets around everywhere. I didn't help myself at all. Can you compare the firmware 4.0 TOC function on the Note Air 4C to Supernote? It will take a while before I get that firmware update. All right, so it is going to be a while before that 4.0 update comes to any other device other than the Note Air 4C. They, I think they're trying to make their money off it only being on the Note Air 4C for a while. So it's going to be a minute. But I have played around with it. It's it's still books. The organization hasn't gotten any better. It's still a books device. I will say this: they did take some notes from what the Penstar did with their table of contents thing. So I thought when I heard table of contents on the commercial that they put out, that it was going to be similar to Supernote, but it's not. No, it's not even in the same ballpark. The only thing I will say is that they have a collapsible and expandable outline tree, which is kind of cool. But the implementation is just not there. But as far as the Boox ecosystem goes, it is a definite plus, but it's not messing with the Supernote yet.
And I don't know how much I told you through email, Rod, but let me set this up real quick. And then I want to get, because you have used some of the AI tools on e-ink, so you've got a perspective I don't have because there is
Mm-hmm.
no AI in the Supernote, and there's really
Right.
nothing to run it through other than if I were to export it and put it in a tool. So it
Right.
doesn't have any of that functionality. Um, but the other day I was on that call and I mentioned this at the beginning of the stream, and they said play with a tool that you have not used yet. And in academics, we use Conmigo, which is Khan Academy's version of ChatGPT, which is really cool to like look at different things. But I use Notebook LM. So I don't know if you saw JB at Morning Coach did a real quick video where somebody who was in his group put one of his books in Notebook LM and asked it to
Mm-hmm.
create a podcast. Did you see that video?
No, I didn't see the video.
And he said it was pretty darn accurate. He played the whole thing. It was like 7 minutes long, and it was like a little 60
Mm-hmm.
page book that he wrote. So our homework was to, play with a tool you haven't played with. So I thought, what the heck? I put my dissertation, which is public record anyway, into it, and I said, create an audio summary. Didn't give it any guidance, didn't give it anything else. It created a conversation between two people for 24 minutes and 43 seconds. And I kid you not, it was 90 plus percent accurate. It summarized a 200 and something page document in less than 5 minutes and created a dialogue that sounded like a podcast on NPR. Freaked me out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really good. I first came across this technology. See, I'm in the Google experiment tester group, so I get these tools a little bit early. So I've been playing with Notebook LM for over a year now. But when it first came out, it couldn't do this podcast thing. That was exclusive to a tool called Illuminate, which Illuminate is still in experimental stage, I think, too. But the problem with Illuminate is you can only put research documents in it. Like it doesn't just accept whatever document you want to put in it. But Notebook LM will. So I started playing with that. Yeah, yeah. It's good.
It,
It's
it
good.
blew my mind. So 50 sources you can put in each notebook, and it can
Mm-hmm.
be web links as long as they're public. I'll be honest, I was a little freaked out because it took me years to write that document. And this thing analyzed it, created a podcast, and drew out things from that document in less than 5 minutes, and the podcast was 25 minutes long and sounded like two people actually talking to each other. It's crazy,
It's good,
crazy.
and I don't know, um, like I've never sat through a whole podcast of the AI talking, so I don't know kind of like what the end game was. Um, but I just know listening to it talk is just it is freaky. It 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 catches you off guard.
It does. It was a male and a female voice, and it truly did sound like an NPR podcast. That's the only thing I can compare it to because it was like they were going back and forth and just talking about me. And so it's something I
Mm,
knew about, and I'm like, you know, wow, this is really cool. But also like
hmm
they're taking liberties, but I can't disagree with it because it sounded like something someone might say about what I said.
hmm
But I know that the machine really can't do that because it's just looking for the next logical character. So my brain
Right.
had trouble. There's like this disconnect between what I thought it would do and what it did.
And that's always the thing with me with AI. AI, because although you know it's just predicting the next word, it just does it in a way that makes it feel like that's not what it's doing.
Yeah. And Doris says AI on Boox 10.3 is cool, but is yours GPT-3A
Oh,
model?
Azure.
Oh,
So
Azure. Okay, Azure's there.
yeah. So Azure is Microsoft's cloud service, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, it's their
Um,
backbone for their infrastructure.
so that service, when anyone licenses Azure, GP3 comes with that. So I think that's what happened on the Go 10.3. Books licensed the Azure to get that AI tools, and it just comes with GP3 GPT-3.
Yeah, and
And you can't
Doris.
upgrade that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I wasn't sure about. I know that Chat GPT is on 4 at this point.
Mm,
Um, and then of course Gemini is based on a different model, which Notebook LM runs through Gemini. Um,
right.
but and then Jaren says, "But you're a creator." Yeah, I know. I'm public domain. They can pull me. Plus, I actually paid to have my dissertation be open access, so that's why I knew I was sharing something that was already on the web. Um, but it's just repackaging your thoughts. But that's what's funny. Now, that's what's cool, or what was freaky to me. They didn't just repackage the thoughts. They did. All the stuff was in there. So let me step back for a minute. All the stuff that they mentioned was in there, but they presented it in a way that I may not have, but still got at the main central point. So it was like this. They even said, "Oh, well, this, he's talking here about empathy and all this different stuff," and I'm like, yeah, well, okay, yeah, that works. And then they said you're wading into, what was it, oh, what was it, choppy waters. I mean, they're using metaphors I did not use. So that was the part to me that made it seem kind of surreal. And I'm kind of
Mhm.
wondering on these ink devices, a, how's that look? I mean, probably Jeffrey Moss has done a lot with the V Woods on that. And do you have the V Woods yet?
No, no.
Oh, okay.
They've just sent me one out, so I should have it within another week or so.
Because I'd be curious, what level does that work at? From the brief demos I've seen, it doesn't get anywhere near that kind of functionality. It's very much that transactional. Like if you go to ChatGPT and ask it some questions, you're going to get back different
It
information.
just gives you what you would get in any other chatbot, essentially. And like I don't know who that comment came from.
Oh,
I
that
didn't see
was
the name.
Jaren. There you go.
Jaren, just like Jaren brought up, um, it's an older version of the AI chatbots too, so it's not even capable of doing the latest kind of tricks. Um, so it's not going to function as good as what you have on your like your phone. So that's the downside to me. That's why I don't really use the AI on the ink tablets because it's not the latest version of it. So
So that's what I was going to ask you. So I see the value of this, and I've even thought about doing this. So, like on my Patreon page, I actually put up this summary that Notebook LM did, and
mhm.
kind of put that there for people to listen to if they want to, and linked it to the actual document if they want to see that and all of
Oh
that.
wow, that's
But
interesting. See, I didn't know you could do that.
yeah, they let you download the MP4 or the WAV file, and
Nice.
you know, Uh, and then you can also, like, at the outset, you can give it parameters. I didn't because I wanted to see what it would actually just do without any guidance. But you can give it target
Mm.
audience. You can tell it what to look for. So I can see some really interesting things coming out of that. The problem is it's always the deep dive podcast and it's always the same two voices. But at the end, they'll
Mhm.
say, we'll drop this down in the show notes and we'll do, I mean, they actually package it as a podcast.
And it's
Um,
only this is the worst it'll ever be. So
yeah. But what here's my question on that. And as an educator, a lot of me is thinking, okay, how could this be valuable? How can this be a teaching tool? How can it be? I don't know how valuable it is in these devices. You mentioned that you don't use it in there. If it was, is it because it's not up to date or because you don't see the use and value of it as a tool
it,
in these?
I see the value in a tool, and I wish it was up to date because I would use it. It's just that they're using old models, and it's like if I want the best information I can get or the best outcome, you're gonna have to deal with the latest models. So, and I think this tops out at 3.5 or 3.0. I use AI now, like on a daily basis. Like my video elements, AI generated. Like a lot of my brainstorming, AI generated. Like, and then I'll go in and pick the best ideas or try to elaborate on the best thoughts. But I use AI nonstop. Like, so I would definitely use it on the e-ink devices if it was better.
The concern I've always had with it is it hallucinates, which means it makes stuff up if it can't find enough data,
Hmm.
and um, it is scraping the work of others. And Brad, who does creative videos for artists, was talking about the big issue that popped up with artists' work being scraped by Adobe for
Mm.
Dolly, and they were basically using existing artist content to create things. So, I think there are some ethical things, but my biggest issue with it, probably more so than anything, is when I was in college, I used a thing called EndNote to help me with citations and managing references because the more you're doing that, the worse and harder it becomes to keep track. But first, I had to learn how to properly do all of that. AI, in some ways, can help you skip a step, like in your brain, of it's going to do some things for me. If you already know, like you, Rod, you're talking about you have it do all of this, then you go in, you double check it, you look at it, you make sure it's right, and then you process
Mm.
that out. The danger is on the other side if someone doesn't have that knowledge base already to be able to go in and check the machine. Where's
And
the
that's I like that, but I equate that to like how our generation and I'm gonna make a whole bunch of assumptions here, so stop me if I'm wrong. But it it seems to me like our generation knew phone numbers. We don't have to use phone numbers anymore. So I can remember having to know my grandmother's phone number, my like friend's phone number or whatever. Um, like people now grow up never having to know that information. So I kind of equate that to now and how I just think that's the natural evolution. Like we as human beings are always trying to find ways to take things out of our head and put it somewhere else. Data storage. There we go. Like since we started writing as human beings, we've been trying to figure out ways that we didn't have to remember stuff and we could just store it somewhere else. So I just think this is a natural evolution of that thing of us, naturally we're going to know less because we're storing less up here and we're doing something else with it. But, and I think AI is another tool that's just another data storage tool that we're using, things we never had to learn, which, yeah, is, I think in the long run is going to make us not as smart and rounded, well rounded human beings. All right, I'm going to say one more thing, totally off topic, but kind of
No,
related.
you go.
This is the same kind of thing that happened to us as human beings as like when we were evolving. Back when we were hunter gatherers, we had to know what berries to eat, where the rivers were, what our territorial boundaries were, when the seasons were going to change, what happened to the land when those things happened, when the herds were coming. Like we know so much less now than our ancient ancestor did like back in the hunter gatherer days. So they were way more in tune to their environment and had to know way more than we do now. So we know less than they did then, individually, on an individual basis. Collectively as a human race, we know more, but individually, yeah, they know way more than we know now, or they knew way more than we know now. So I think that AI is pushing us even further down that evolutionary chain. Like we're gonna know a lot less in the future because of AI. But I think that's just the natural evolution.
No, no, well, and I think this is why the topic itself is so hard because, you know, again, I take it to that thing of how do we check it? How do we know whether or
Hmm.
not it's accurate and doing the right things? And we've got a couple of more comments in the chat. One, use Copilot for work, speeds up writing. It can be a conversation partner,
Oh
but
yeah.
I'm still using it to bring out my thoughts. And I think, Jaron, you kind of put kind of a better spin on what I was trying to say too, which was this idea that you see it being very effective. I see it being very effective to help me. And I think Rod mentioned this as a brainstorming tool, as something to help me kind of, where am I going to go with this? There's this really cool feature in Conmigo, which is using ChatGPT 4 as a model, where it says refresh my learning. And you go into it and it says, what do you want to learn about today? And if I'm teaching something I haven't taught in a while, I'll say, well, I want to refresh on, whatever it is, change management. And he'll say, well, do you want to take a quiz or do you want to have a conversation? And I say, well, I
Mm.
want to have a conversation. And it says, tell me what you already know. So I type in, I know this and that and the other. And then it says, okay, suppose a student asked you this question, how would you respond? And so it begins that back and forth to kind of get me in the frame of being able to have a dialogue with it, to put my own information in there instead of giving me an answer. And that's what I'm just
Mm-hmm.
hoping we don't lose by the widespread availability of these types of tools. I think we should use them. I think we should expose people to them. We should get them to know what they actually are and what they aren't. But
Mm-hmm.
to your point, Rod, I don't think we could, even if we want to, put the genie back in the bottle.
Uh,
But I
mm-mm.
also think that we need to be careful in over promising. And I only mention Conmigo because I use it and it is free. If you're an educator, it doesn't cost you anything. If you want to purchase it for you or a family, $44 a year because Khan Academy's nonprofit. So
Mm-hmm.
um, they have a
I
thing
love
that
Khan
does
Academy. Shout
exactly
out to
what you're
them.
talking about here. Yeah, I got to see Saul Khan earlier this year, and it was like a nerd moment for me. It was like a geek out moment.
Really?
Yeah,
Dude, that's
he was
awesome.
at, he was at a conference and he came out and introduced this whole Conmigo concept. And but they have a thing where it says, "Put this in context," or generate real world case scenarios. So, Christina, to your point, I mean, like I said, if you're a teacher, it's for free. You just have to sign up. If you are an individual, it's $44 a year, or a family, $44 a year, and it is crazy. It does all kinds of stuff.
There's a conversational chat tool that Google makes called it's a Gemini chat tool. But what it does when you download the app to your phone, you talk to it in a conversational way. So it's all conversation. You never text anything, and it never texts anything to you. It just it's it's crazy because it's just so natural. Like it helped me fix my car the other day. Like
Wow.
like I talked through what problem I was having, and it just was like, oh, is it making this sound? Is it quick or slow? Do you feel it through the wire? It's this. And like $5 fix, which if I had taken it to the mechanic, it probably would have been like a $5,000 fix. One thing about Notebook LM though, real quick, um, one of the big things about that for me is that it should hallucinate a lot less because it's using only your data that you put in, which is why I like using it. Instead of it searching the whole web and all this,
Yeah.
it's only working on the data that you put in it.
Yeah. And I would suggest to anybody, don't be scared of these tools. I mean, I have my students actually use them in class. Like I'll say, put this topic into Chat GPT, get a response, and I tell it Chat GPT, Copilot, Gemini, pick whichever one you want, and then critique its response and your original prompt. Did you actually ask it the right question? And did it answer
Mm.
it the right way? Because they need to be able to, I think people, as people, we need to
Yes.
understand that, Bill Gates was right, what, 30 years ago now, when he said that technologies, this is a bad paraphrase, but I always use it, but it's the great magnifier. So if your process is junk, technology is going to make it 100 times or 1,000 times worse. But if your process is sound and good, technology is going to make it that much more efficient and that much better. And so
Hmm.
he talks about that. And I think AI is the same way. If you give it good information and good data and give it, the right guidance and ask it the right questions, it can make you extremely productive.
Yeah. Prompt engineering is a real thing.
It's all about putting up those guardrails. Like I said, once uh, Khan Academy got involved, I'm less worried in the educational space about some of the things, as long as I use their tool, because they have what do they call it, a AI nutrition facts that basically um, talks to you about how they don't share your data. Like it gives you very explicitly what they do with the data, how long they keep it, when they delete it, who looks at it, who doesn't look at it, all of that.
Apple's concerned about that, and I'm not a big Apple user. I mean, I do have a MacBook, but um, they protect privacy, and especially with their AI tools, I think they're one of the few companies that are saying, "Hey, we're collecting your data to use in our AI tools to benefit you, and we're not going to share that data." And matter of fact, not only are we not going to share it, we can or anyone can have independent um, investigators come and verify our like no our privacy status or our no sharing data stance. So they're the only company I know of that are collecting data for AI purposes and not selling it or using it for that matter.
I would agree. And Marquez Brownlee did a great sit down with Tim Cook on that when they
Mm-hmm.
announced, and Apple's structure for how they handle AI is the gold standard. Samsung's trying to do
Yes.
some of it on device, but when they talked about having on device, then they talked about having the Silica network built as an extra added layer that they have sole proprietary use of, then
Mm-hmm.
asking permission every time to go out to a large language model that needs
Right.
more firepower. Nobody else is doing that. Nobody.
Mm-mm.
And
Mm-mm.
I think Khan Academy is very similar to how they're approaching it because they're getting ChatGPT to go into this partnership and this
Mm-hmm.
arrangement. But Apple's like taking it so many steps further than that.
Yeah.
And
And I
it's
like
kind
that.
of amazing. I give them props for that. I mean, Apple from a
Mm-hmm.
privacy standpoint, I've never complained about. And
Yeah. Yeah.
um, some of their other stuff as far as, locking things down gets a little troublesome.
That's
But
a different story.
there's a reason that they're safe. Continue the conversation down in the comments. And if you are not subscribed to this man, get over there. What are you waiting on? Get over there.
Oh, thanks, you
And if you
guys.
came from him to the stream, subscribe to me. Come on, we can do that.
Word, definitely.
Let's do a little bit of share. But go ahead. I mean, seriously, he does some great content. He's got devices I don't have. And it's one reason we work really well together, I think, is because
Mm,
we look at this from different perspectives, and that lifts everybody up. So, any
definitely.
last final words there, Rod?
Just everybody have a good night and thank you.